Welcome to the Calgary Sessions. This is episode number 52. I'm your host, Jeff Humphries. Today's guest, this will be a really cool conversation. It'll kind of fuck with some people's minds once we get into what he's actually up to and how he's doing it. Him and I met years ago. He was in a band playing off of McLeod Trail. You'll remember where it was. Anyways, we've kind of didn't talk for a decade and then kind of reconnected the last couple of years. So when I started this podcast, you were on my list right away. You probably didn't know that, but as guests, so this will be a cool one. I wanted to get to you for a while, so this will be awesome.
Awesome.
So go ahead, name and tell everybody what you're up to.
So my name's Daniel San Martin, owner-operator of Top Line Painting and Spray Coatings here in Calgary, Alberta. And I've been doing interior architectural coatings for the past 16, 17 years now.
Awesome.
And and as you were saying, I was in the music thing before. I had a band and stuff like that. So painter by day, musician by night, family man all the time. So yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah.
So, and we're going to weave through a bunch of different things, but once we get into your like branding, your marketing brain, I think that'll be an interesting conversation for me to hear and for me to be involved in. So you've seen a couple of these, so I like the guests to go back as far as they want to go. You know, how you grew up, where you grew up.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What you're into, what inspired you, and then we'll kind of weave our way to where you are today.
All right. Yeah. Well, I was born and raised in Calgary, so I've lived here my whole life. I got into the trades after high school. Kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do. I did some traveling and stuff like that.
Was school normal? Like grew up normal? Went to school,
grew up normal,
didn't love
went
it.
To school. I mean, I feel like I was that kid that had great potential to do great things, but I feel like maybe I was a little bit of like a daydreamer, wanderer, you know what I mean? So, and that was cool. Immigrant parents who worked really, really hard, but worked a ton. They worked all the time. So
what'd they do?
My dad was a baker, a master baker actually. And my mom was mostly a stay-at-home mom. Italian mom, typical Italian mom, just always cooking, cleaning, there for the family. She worked too a little bit. But yeah, I mean, and we didn't start working. Well, actually we started working early. When I was 14, I had my first job. But didn't really know what I wanted to do.
What were you doing? What was that first gig?
I was prep cook. I was a prep cook.
With your dad or no?
No.
Was it a family connection?
No. Okay. No, we needed to work. And my parents did okay. I think that, we had a pretty good childhood. I would say that. When we got older, my dad worked all the time, and me and my brother, just two brothers, free reign, bro.
Because your dad was never around?
He was never around. He was working, and he worked nights, so when he was home during the day, he was sleeping. So my poor mom, God bless her soul, ma. Yeah, and you know what? I never thought about even the trades or anything like that until someone approached me with it. It was mostly just having fun, get through high school. I never went to college, never went to university, just worked where I could. And then right about that time was when I started getting into music too. And I wish I would have got into it a little bit sooner, because it definitely was. I realized when I got into it, this was like my one true love. That was like what I should have been doing.
But it was late in life.
It was a little late in life. And I think I had, a little bit of talent to do it. And I really wish I could have progressed, but everything happens for a reason, So I worked a bit here and there,
like
traveled.
random jobs,
random jobs.
Out of high school,
out of high school, yeah, random jobs. And then I traveled a bit, came back, and was, I think, working at like a Subaru dealership or something like that, detailing cars.
Okay.
And a buddy of mine's like, "Hey man, like, do you want to paint houses?" And I'm like, "All right, sure." So I go check it out, and I grew up in Northeast Calgary. So when I seen these houses on the outskirts, these big mansions, I was like, yeah, I want to paint houses, definitely. So that's how I got into that, all the while still doing music. But then my girlfriend got pregnant. She was 19, I was 20.
Yep.
So right then it's just dive into painting.
With your buddy, like with another company, or what were you doing?
While I was subcontracting, I started working for a company by the hour. That's how I got into painting, and then eventually just built up tools. My brother came along, then we started subcontracting, stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah. But all the while well, my girlfriend got pregnant, so I just dove into that.
Yeah.
I just needed to,
You need to make a living.
survive. I need to make a living. Yeah, absolutely.
So the music thing in high school, were you like, were you like in the bedroom? Nobody knew that you were messing around? Or were you like keeping it on the DL?
I was a closet singer until my first band came out and we played a show, and I had so many of my buddies were like, what the fuck?
When and where was that?
That was at Below Deck Tavern. When? Oh man.
How old were you think? Like in high school-ish?
No, actually, this is all after high school.
Okay.
This is all after high school.
Okay.
This is trying to do the band, do the company, and raise a family.
Be a dad.
Yeah. And that eventually, I had to give some of it up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what was that first gig like?
It was amazing.
So what was the band? Was it did you put the band together?
Yeah. So I had a couple buddies that we would jam with all the time, and that started opening me up to the scene and being like, oh man, like, I could do this. This is awesome. Honestly, dude, playing music for the first time with a group of people in unison, in time, with a band was so addicting. It was like better than any drug I'd ever done.
Like just goosebumps.
You're like, whoa, what the heck? It's a universal language and it touches everybody. It doesn't matter. Skin color, age, don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
If you can touch somebody, and that's why I fell in love with it, because I'm a singer. I was the singer in the band. Yep. So I felt that, I think, a little bit more than maybe some of the other guys, not to take away from their skill, but
yep.
You're there, you're at the front, you have to engage, and hopefully they like your voice. You know what I mean? So there's a lot going on, but it was just amazing. You'd get the cheers. You'd make them feel what you feel when you hear a great song,
mm-hmm.
and you can do that to people. It
mm-hmm.
was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It was everything. But yeah, so I did that until.
What was the band called?
The Lost Lemons. Yeah, we were
always. Was it one band?
Always, yeah. So essentially, came out of high school, started playing, was messing around, different jobs, all the while hanging out with my buddies. My buddy's dad gave me a drum kit, and he was like, because I went to his house and all of a sudden I'm just ripping these beats. I'd never had a drum kit in my life.
Is there any musical background in your family?
My family is very musical. My
okay.
dad's a really good musician, artist, but he started late. So he never did it too much. Sometimes he'd break out the keyboard, have a couple beers on his day off and like jam. And so there was some stuff there. Lots of music in the house. Yep. We'd always wake up to hearing whatever Gypsy Kings, Julio Iglesias, whatever it was. My mom loved the 50s. It's like all over the place, right?
It's so funny, but I used to wake up and my mom would be rocking like Rick Astley, Lionel Richie, MJ, Dirty Dancing soundtrack.
Yes,
just
like one pumping. Of the best. Yeah, I feel you, man. That was us too, and like I said, it's not that we were poor, but my parents were putting their energy and money into what they probably thought was important. So no, there wasn't like drum sets and like music classes. So it wasn't until I kind of got out of high school, was doing my own thing, making my own money, that I could start, diving into different things, going to open mics, jamming with my buddies whenever I wanted to, right?
But singing.
Singing was, I was, like I said, a closet singer for a long time.
So
I would sing in the shower, at home, in the car, whenever I wasn't around my buddies, because they all listened to more like gangster rap and stuff like that. And not a lot of rock and roll. It was a lot of rap, a lot of R&B.
Yep.
Yeah.
What were you singing?
Oh man, Boyz II Men, freaking Backstreet Boys, 112.
Yeah.
Anything that had a good melody that felt good to me that I could touch. Mm-hmm. Some Michael Jackson. It's really hard to sing. But once I got into music and started doing it more, it's really you have to try and find yourself. It's great to be able to do covers and like sound like that person or do it well.
Yep.
But finding your own voice was something that's why I started the original band, the original reggae rock band. I just took all the influences, everything, telling my buddies so I was jamming with these group of guys. I'm like, dude, we need to start like our own stuff. No. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. So I rounded up some dudes, some of the existing guys, and just went hard. We probably rehearsed and wrote for like 2 years before we even played our first gig. Because I was just like, no, I don't want to just do the circuit cover band thing. We'd slightly done it, but poorly. So I didn't want to do it that way. So yeah, I created the Lost Lemons with some help with the other guys. And
what was the style?
Writing. it was like reggae rock, Sublime-ish kind of feel.
Yep.
Yeah,
It was groovy, right?
It was groovy, real groovy, and people loved it.
Yeah.
You know, real booty shakers. You can pack a dance floor with some of that stuff. Up tempo. It was great. It was awesome, man. It was like some of the best times. Yeah.
And how long did that run go for?
Oh man, very short.
Was it really?
Yeah, unfortunately it was, because like
you guys were good, right? Like
we were good. I thought we were good. I think it's like anything. Sometimes the scenes are a little cliquey, so you got to put in a lot of work to get to the places you want to be.
Well, and when you came in late into it, family, job, painting, and then that, you can't really give it everything.
No, it's tough. Having the family is probably the best thing that ever happened to me, and there's no ever regrets there. But if you want to do it well, you have to give all your time to them. And I'm okay with that. Every day I'm okay with that. I'll always have music. You know, I can sit at home, I can jam, I can sing in the shower, I can still go to open mics and stuff.
Do you? Have you? Do you have the time to do it?
Corona kind of screwed that up.
Yeah.
So what happened was the band members started moving away. So I was like, okay, do we regroup this? We didn't. With the remaining 3 guys, we just wrote in a little in-house studio the drummer had.
Yep.
But the drummer eventually moved away with his wife to pursue his dreams, which is great. And then Corona kind of happened, so it just kind of died. And then I just concentrated more on my business, my family, my social media end of stuff.
Yep.
And now recently it's coming back. So now I'm regrouping some guys and getting some, a little bit more, I think more acoustic stuff, because the full band, man, like we were at one point, we had almost 8 members.
No way.
Yeah. It wasn't full-time 8 members, but when we would do big gigs, we would, bring in a horn section or some conga player, or, that was a lot of booking. And I was so busy with my family and my job, and it was taxing, man. But I loved it.
So now the singing thing, like, are you rolling up and down 17 singing in your truck?
I haven't decided what to do yet.
But are you like day to day? Are you still singing to?
Oh, every day. Like I have a little amp and a guitar, and I just turn it on and try and have it be like the most live feel I can. Have the mic and everything. I do that. But now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, do we do like the circuit? Do we book ourselves some shows around, or do I just go busk? And still get what I need from it,
Which is what how can you, explain?
What I need from it is man, my dad was so talented. And one day when I was a kid, I was going through this box and I opened up this book, and it was his sketchbook, and I was blown away, dude. I'm like, because my dad was just always such a hardworking man, a little bit grumpy, very strict. Worked his butt off.
He's probably stressed out though, right?
Oh,
all
dude,
the time. So 100%. That's why he's grumpy.
Oh, yeah. And I totally get all that, because, dude, and I'm doing sort of what they did in a time where it's like, we have a little bit more than what they had. So yeah, I could only imagine the stress that they had. So it's like, I could never hate on my parents for anything they've done. They didn't make any mistakes. How could you? Right? You're just trying to get by. But I took some of, I seen his portfolio. I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck, man? Like, you are incredibly talented. Why? You just never did it. So I said that to the band when I first put the band together. There was a couple of guys that didn't come along, and I was like, I don't want to die with my talent in me, man. I don't care if I have 1 album, 2 albums. I don't care. As long as it's there and I can be like, I did that. And even if I listen back to myself, like, great, I have something that I feel like, if someone wanted to take a little piece of that and enjoy it, sure, great. Thank you. Yeah. If not, I'm okay with it. So now in my life, I just need singing. I need music. So I'm like, do I need to be famous? No. Do I need to have a little bit of recognition for what I'm doing? Sure. Busking seems like a great way to do it. You're just out there doing whatever you want, free. You can, attract a crowd. There's so much politics in music, even in a small town like this, that it's like, do I want to book a show? Oh, make sure can you fill the venue? Can you do this? Can you do that? I more just want to like sing, maybe get something down. Social media is something that I'm like, I could just start like a TikTok page.
You took the words out of my mouth.
I thought about it.
For someone like you who understands social, who's crushed it.
Thank you.
to all of a sudden spin up like whatever your real name or however you want to do it on social and it's all music.
Yeah.
Because it's all videos, right?
It's all videos.
So you on video singing some covers and originals in different genres?
Oh yeah. Oh, I see. I mean, if there's like 12-year-old kids that are killing it doing that, I'm like, well, I could probably do that.
It's like you're set up to do it, which is interesting because then all of a sudden you don't have to. You're not relying on anybody. You're not waiting for. You're not selling yourself to a venue. Eventually, you get to a spot where they're coming to you, and you get to that point. So you're not really.
Well, I thought if I was going to do any more live music stuff here in town, I'm going to do it my way this time. And so working more with people I know that, have venues that are doing small shows. I know a few people through my brother and because he's a DJ in town and stuff. So there's avenues.
Yeah.
I don't want to hit the circuit anymore.
No.
Like, let's just book all these. No.
You're going to do it your way. I'm
going to do it my way.
But you're thinking about this, hey?
Oh, man.
Like the music thing is not going away.
It's not. It can't. I would... I'm sure everybody has something that they can fall back on. And if you don't, please find it because it's the only way that's going to keep you sane in this world. Even if you have the greatest life, there's things deep inside of you that need to be touched. Like for me, it's singing and music. It does something to me that nothing else does. Even painting the most beautiful homes. I love it. And I step back and I'm like, damn, you fucking did that. Like, good job.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the same with music. That's something that's just for you. So that, it'll never die. I'm just don't know if I want to take it to, it's always like that level where people, it's like, okay, we're going to do it. Oh, we got to have an album. We got to push this out. We got to do this. I'm like, just do it for you right now.
Yeah. And
I feel like if you don't push it, that's when things happen actually. When you're like, oh, well, I didn't actually think this was going to do very well.
It's interesting you said that the podcast just before we were talking about just kind of how she believes in like things are happening organically.
Yeah, man.
She just talks about it. Next thing you know, she's talking about it in front of a group, and that person, somebody in the group is like, I know exactly what you're talking about, and you need to talk to this person. And like it just starts opening up doors.
Yeah, man.
Versus I need to do this, I need to do that, and trying to schedule it.
Yeah. And I found that too when we first started, because writing music is like that. You can't force it because it's really hard to write music.
I can't imagine.
It is and it isn't. It's like, it depends on what you're doing. If there's like a group of guys and you're all putting your part in and your piece, then it can get a little difficult. If one guy's writing it all and then he's bringing it to the musicians and then saying, play this part, and they're really good at what they do, then it's easy. And it's like, oh, he told me to play. Okay, boom. And you're like, yep, that's exactly how I want it. Boom. Yep. Excuse me. But when it comes to like everyone putting their part in, people think, oh, it should sound like this. Oh, it should sound like this. No, it should go like this. No, it should go. I'm like, so we used to write all off the floor in the jam. We're not sit down sheet music type of writers. It's like, hey man, I had this lick. One guy starts playing it. The drummer puts his part. The lead guy puts his part. I would just start mumbling melodies and stuff.
Yep.
And then eventually I'd have to go home and write it and really get it solid. But we found that the more we forced it, more just like, no, we got to get this song done, just the longer it took.
Mm.
So it's like, I agree with you. It's like that kind of with a lot of things. Sometimes when you're not forcing it and you, well, here's a good one.
Yes. I already know it's going to be good because you're fucking laughing.
Well, it's like having kids, bro. You have kids?
No, I don't.
Okay. So we had one kid, our first child, Luca. And that happened quite easy. And then, if you try and plan a second kid, it might happen that easy. But from what I've heard from a number of people, it becomes work. And then when you're on a regimented schedule, like, okay, sweetheart, I'm on this ovulating here. And it's like, we got it like this. For us, eventually it came to the point where I was like, okay, it'll happen when it happened. And literally it was like a week later it happened.
Yeah.
So it's like that, And I think it's the same thing with music. I think if I just put it back in the universe,
yep,
do it a little bit here and there, think about it, things will happen with it.
Well, yeah, and the TikTok fire, obviously.
The TikTok fire, yeah. But I'm not a huge fan of TikTok myself, but I see so many avenues on it.
Well, yeah, you can imagine the rabbit hole of, all of a sudden you find these crazy musicians that you could appreciate, or you can do all that on there.
Yeah,
Which
well,
is
that's
really cool.
why I thought about it, because there are days I go down the rabbit hole and I'm looking at stuff. I'm like, oh wow, like how is this person not famous?
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at all this talent just floating around out there.
Yep.
Which is another reason why I'm like, well, that's probably maybe a little bit of a reason not to do it, because I'm like, really, what am I going to get out of it? Because at the end of the day, you if you do anything in life, you really should be sort of doing it for yourself.
That's got to be the root of it.
The root of it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think. But
yeah, but I think it's interesting because if you do it for yourself, but you're going to put in work and effort, and if it's not recognized a little bit, you know, like outside of your family and friends,
you feel me then, because
just a little bit.
It has to, and that's why if I were to just sing in the shower in the car all the time and just work on my voice all the time and keep saying to myself, like, man, you nailed that. That would only go so far.
Yeah, for so long
mm-hmm. until I get that itch,
mm-hmm.
you know, and it is an itch. It's a big time itch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only, it's interesting, speaking to musicians, because my only point of reference is when I was a DJ.
Yeah.
And, you know, having those nights where it's just everything's perfect. The crowd is perfect. Your selections were right. You played the right thing at the right time. People are screaming at you. The lights come on, and everyone's just like, what the hell was that?
Yeah, man.
And it's that feeling that I chased for like 9 years. Yeah. And it's so hard to actually to replicate it, because it takes so many things to make that night perfect. Yeah. And then when you're done with it, it took years to find something that would replace those kind of goosebumps, you know?
It's hard to replace, man. Yeah. It's very hard to replace. Yeah. Especially being a singer. It's like, you can kind of like, you know, you do your first set, everything's going great. You do your second set, you can feel like, oh, okay, yeah, now we're going.
You know where it's going.
You get to that third set, and it's like you have them right there. And it's like you've just made friends with every single person in that room, and you've never even met them. Mm-hmm. And it's just amazing.
You can't awesome. Find that anywhere else.
You can't find it anywhere else, really, no.
And it's a dangerous chase, though, too, I find.
Yeah, I think a lot of people waste a lot of their lives chasing it.
Yep.
You know, and my parents, super strict in the sense that it's like you work to make money. Mm-hmm. I do believe, though, in my heart of hearts, that if I started earlier, I might have gone a different direction in life. Mm. I do truly believe that. Yeah.
That's got to be... When and if you ever have time to think about it, I'm sure that's
no regrets, man.
So let's weave back into having your first child, gigging, and then the painting thing. So how does I
was doing everything, man. I'm a workaholic.
And now that you get to look back on this, and I don't know how often you do this, but when you look at your parents and look at what you're doing, the similarities?
No.
Like work ethic wise?
Work ethic for sure.
That's all I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But my dad, I remember when I first got into painting, I had 2 opportunities that day. One for like a company with like full benefits, like all the perks and everything. And then perks. Yeah, and then there was painting. And I remember my dad saying to me, like, think hard about this, because if you're going to go the self-employed route, you're going to be married to it for the rest of your life. And then, you know, it's always that, make sure you have 6 months savings, make sure you have this, make sure you have that. So there was that crossroads there. He took that route. When he first came to Canada, he started doing odd jobs. He was actually doing the trades, but then he realized with a family, no, I'm going to take benefits. I'm going to take the security. Mm-hmm. I cannot, you know, shame him for that at all. Nope. Absolutely. But we didn't do it that way. But it's different day and age. My mom all the time, typical Italian mom, don't work so much. You guys work so much. And I'm like, Ma, like seriously, like if you had the opportunities, I think you would have took them too, but they were older and they didn't want to take very many risks. I can't blame them for that. The
risk to come here was like
huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And my dad worked his butt off like all the time. But seeing that and looking back at that, I'm like, do I really want that? You know? And even though I work probably 5 times as much as my father ever did, there's a lot more benefits to what we're doing than what he did. It was not the easy route. It's crazy because he was like, dude, I was making $24 an hour. And like, I'm like, what? And he's like, that was good. I'm like, that was good. He's like, that was good. I'm like, all right, damn, crazy. So yeah, I look back, but I try not to
Yep.
too much, because I mean, it hurts my feelings a little bit to think about, man, there's nothing worse than a wasted life. And I feel that way sometimes. Not that they wasted it, but like, if they didn't start late, if they didn't have kids, where would they be? What would they be doing? Would have they been happier? But it's hard. Like you try not to think about that stuff. You just try and appreciate what they've done and not let them down for the work they've put in for you. Right. And I think a lot of people are screwing that up. But,
So your choice between working somewhere or kind of spinning up your own paint business, was that kind of at your point, like subcontracting?
Yeah. Well, actually, so when I first started painting, it was by the hour. It was like a friend of a friend that's like I said, you want to paint houses? I'm like, okay. And I see it's like these mansions. So I'm like, oh, sweet. So
were you on the end of a roller or a brush? What were you doing?
Everything, all prep work,
Okay.
no finish coating, just all grunt work, all prep, painting's all prep work. So it was all prep, and it's all interior stuff. So like doors, trims, everything, which we like, hey, have you ever painted before? Like, yeah, I painted my room. Then you come here like, oh, like, no, I've never painted before.
Like 10,000 square feet here.
And it's everything: doors, windows, frames, railings, bookcases. It's all of it. So it was a whole nother thing. It was more probably being young and seeing these houses and being like, no, I'd rather do this. Right. You're not looking at the security right then. My girlfriend hadn't got pregnant yet. Right. So I was like, maybe I worked for these guys for like maybe a year, and my girlfriend got pregnant. And then at the same time, my dad's like, why are you working with them? Go work with your uncles over here doing this. So I left the custom game and I went and worked in production painting for like 2 years.
Doing what?
Production homes is more just volume. So like cookie cutter houses. Yeah. Smaller stuff in and out. You're maybe in there for 3-4 days. I was on a spray crew. So we were doing all the spraying.
With your uncles?
With my uncles.
Okay.
Yeah. So my dad's like, why are you working with these guys? Like, go work over here. I'm like, all right. Once again, like, yes, Pa, I want to. Yeah. Okay, sure. So I went and did that. It was a great learning experience because I learned so much stuff that really helped me with my custom home game. So then I went back to the custom home game. And as we started learning, then eventually we started subbing. Then my brother joined in, and that was it from there. My girlfriend, finally, we had our first son came, and then finally I just said, all right, I see an avenue here to really be able to grab the bull by the horns. That like I didn't have to be completely strapped down to, working for somebody by the hour forever. I seen the bigger picture, so I was like, yeah, I think I'll just do this. I'll stay here.
How many years ago was that?
Well, my son's 15.
That's it.
So
I was
almost
going to, there's your
17
marker.
years. Yeah, my son's 15, man. It's crazy. I haven't even I just turned 38 a couple of days ago.
Oh, happy belated.
Thank you, man.
Youngster.
Do I still look it?
Oh, these cameras are good.
They're too good. Get my good side.
When you say you saw an opportunity, what was it? Like you knew you didn't want to do like hourly right away.
I think it was I seen the independence in it. Because I found that, a lot of my buddies, some of their dads were very, very wealthy, worked their way from the bottom to the top of a company. But I always felt like there was a little bit of like always going to be a cap there. And I seen the independence in it. I knew that I'm like, okay, if I stick with this long enough and learn the skill, learn the trade, that I'll be able to do whatever I want one day. And it's not stepping on toes or being like, thanks for teaching me, but now I got to go. I'm glad it didn't even work out that way. It actually just, the work wasn't enough and we had to go out on our own. So it worked out great. But as soon as I got the taste of on my own and, the sky was the limit. Now I'm just hungry all the time for that. I'm a bit of a workaholic. And a bit of a dreamer. I'll go for it every time. I don't care. So
how did you, when you decide to essentially spun up your own crew, right? Your own business.
Eventually,
and then kind of, when you decide like there's opportunity, how are you getting those opportunities?
Well, it's a lot through networking. So I subcontracted for a long time before I even went completely on my own. Okay. So when I say I went on my own, so we worked for these guys by the hour. They taught us, and they said, if you get some tools, you guys can do the spraying. We'll come behind you. We'll paint the walls. So right there, it's like you're sort of already self-employed. They're paying you differently. They're giving you the responsibility here, So we started with that. And then it came into a point where they were giving me enough work that I'm like, oh, well, we could probably have a guy to help us do this. So then we start with that. And then I think it would be the recession for sure. I don't know which one now because it seems like there's been a few of them, but work fell out. And then finally it was like, hey, we don't have enough work to keep you guys busy anymore. So that was really like, oh man, like out the door. So then to kind of keep, the money rolling in, because it was very hard to get into these high-end builders. You could have all the experience you want, but sometimes it's like, you got to know people.
Yep,
They're not just going to trust you.
Yep.
So I just kept subbing and just networking and meeting different people, like Mike Steen, for example, right? You just meet different people, you network, and eventually it's just like here, there, and things fall into place. And then time went on. And
but was that comfortable though?
Oh,
just to like trust
terrible.
it, to trust that process. You're like
terrible.
You're like, okay, I think I'm doing the right thing. I know I'm doing the right thing, but it's taking months, it's taking years to build these relationships.
It took 17, I think I'm going on 17 years to finally land my dream builder. And I'm glad I'm still young and that I started young.
Yep.
And I'm blessed. I'm very thankful because we're getting an opportunity to do this kind of at like the pinnacle of my life a little bit, like at the height of it, you know, I'm like in my prime.
It's the perfect time.
It's the perfect time. But I'd already put in almost 16 years.
But people never see that, right?
It's like an iceberg.
Yeah.
Right. You never see all that on the bottom. You're just seeing what's on the top. And I get it. But yeah, I was ruthless, man.
And that slow like relationship build,
it was everything.
Like you were, and as basic as that is, you're like on a job site, you talked you talked to people, showed up on time, did good work. It was like all the basic things,
the basic things. And then just, there's a little bit of, you got to be a little bit hardcore too, and it's not to say that you want to step on toes or you want to hurt feelings, but everyone needs to, make a buck.
Yep.
So it was like, how do I go about this without, I'm sure I could have got way more builders earlier on. A piece of me is thankful that I didn't, because I might not have been prepared.
Yep.
I'm still learning lessons every day. I'm still learning lessons, but I could have easily been like, no, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this from you. I'm going to take this from you, but just cutting people. And, and we're young. We're one of the youngest spray crews out there. Maybe not completely. I think there's still a lot of younger guys coming up, but at that time it's like, people see opportunity in that. And there's been opportunities and I've turned them down. But that's the integrity in me. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to make my way like that. Because
you can see, because you're in it for the long term, and you don't want to be
100%.
Like burned.
I don't want to be burned, and I don't want to create any negative relationships with people that I might eventually have to do business with again.
Small city.
It's a small city. So I'm like, but I still made good money. I was smart with it, was able to raise my family, even subcontracting. I worked, my wife will tell you right now, I worked every day, all day. Because when I was subbing, I was like, how do I get out of subbing now? Well, you got to create another network. So it's like weekends, evenings, wherever I could, side jobs.
Whoever.
Mm-hmm. And then eventually, like you said, it's that network. And it's like, well, this person's like, oh, I know this painter. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, well, actually, this guy, actually, he's my buddy. He actually builds houses. And it's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. 17 years.
17 years. Yeah, don't forget it.
Which is now that, I don't know how much time you spend reflecting back on this, but it's got to be a bit of a mind fuck when you think about like 17 years to get you to your like, to start working with the builder.
Yeah.
And just the amount of work and time and effort to get there. Like it's a shift.
It's a shift. And all the while I had a small family and then bring another child into the world. So it's like, now you're like, oh my God, what am I doing here? You just can't give up, and just have a vision and just go for it. And I knew what I wanted and where I wanted to be. And I think that's ever since I was a kid, I was like that. I believe strongly in the universe, whatever you want to take it, anybody wants to take it as, but I always just found that, hey, I want to do music. Well, I can partially sing. Well, I can get better at that. So I got better at that. Well, that's not enough now. I need to be able to play guitar. Teach myself to play guitar. Great. Okay. No, but you know what? I think you have some talent here. You should start a band. Oh, well, I don't think I'm ready for that. So I go to jams. And it's just like everything I put my mind to, I've accomplished. And I can say that without feeling like I'm bragging. I'm very, very happy and confident in what I've done.
It makes sense though, because to have the courage to actually like dream it and then go after it,
Man.
you know, that's not like it's not being a narcissist or anything. It's not an ego play. It's
I
just
don't think so.
it's just vision, and then
Yeah.
you have the work ethic to go get it.
Yeah. I always tell people like there's a fine line between cocky and confident.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're confident and you know yourself, that you can make miracles happen.
Yep.
It's happened. It's happened to me. It's happened to many other people.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't give up, right?
Yeah.
Just don't ever give up.
So the vision of, and this is where I've been looking forward to get into this with you, but the vision of this, the company, you know, you said you could see something, what you wanted to become. So I want you to walk me through how you've got there, because you're specifically about your marketing approach.
Oh man. Well, actually, truth be told, then I've never marketed my company. But I've never marketed.
Yep.
I let the work speak for itself. And like you said, it's a small city, and there's only a select few that I think are doing what we're doing specifically when it comes to airless spraying, right? So there's a little bit of a niche there. Okay.
So explain that, airless spraying.
Well, airless spraying. So essentially, so when we go into a house, a lot of people think painting. They think like walls, ceilings, trim, and stuff like that. And I think a lot of DIYers or people doing it themselves, they take out a brush and roller and then they hit everything with a brush and roller. Well, with us, what we do is you're spray painting in these houses. So trim, baseboards, doors, railings, and you use an airless sprayer to apply the paint. But it's a bit of a skill. You know what I mean? And I hope I'm not getting on anybody here, but I think it's a little bit more of a skill than some. I think every trade has its skill, but it has an artistic side to it. I've known great painters who have trouble spraying, but they're really great at other parts of painting.
Yeah, it's just a skill.
Yeah, it's a skill. So with that, I realized, okay, we have a little bit of a skill, like a niche skill here.
Did you enjoy the creative part of that?
I love it.
Because it's like...
I actually love it. Other than, I mean, we still use a lot of like solvent-based lacquers and stuff. So it's still like a little hazardous, stinky and stuff. But once you get past that, and like I said, you step back and you're like, whoa, I just did that. It's amazing. And I love every minute of it. I think that's another thing too. If you don't love it, I don't think that you could get to that level.
Yep. Well, agreed. And you also couldn't do what you're doing online.
Yeah. So back to that. I've never marketed to get the work that I've had here. But then once I started getting onto social media, I was just putting my work out there and it just snowballed. And it was once again the spraying. Like, hey man, like what did you use to, like, how'd you do that? What products are you using? What is this? What is that? And they're just like, whoa, like you care? Like you got to show me how to do that. And I'm like, okay. So once again, then it's more like, oh, wow, there's something here, which then again builds more confidence in you. My social media helped me. You know what it did? Those builders before, when I was kind of up and coming, they never looked at me before. There wasn't really that much social media there. It's more emails, the touches, you know, that marketing touches. You got to touch them, like email them. If they don't get back to you, wait a week, email them again. And I did that so much. No one ever got back to me. Or I was like, oh, we have somebody already, or this and that. Okay. And I think maybe time helped, that maybe some of the crews were dying off, people were retiring, whatever.
Do you think your work, you know, has your work improved drastically as far as finished product from in the last decade, or are you still pretty?
No, because we started, this is what I'm very thankful for. We started in the high end game. So the bar was set high way up right away.
Gotcha.
Going to production helped me learn things to increase efficiency and productivity. But there's so many things that when you leave production, you leave it at production because you can't bring that shit along with you. Well, you can. It depends, right? It's like anything. It depends who you're working for. But I wanted to work for the best. I wanted to leave the best product, the best finish, the best everything. You know? And I found that social media, once I was able to create an Instagram, the portfolio, put the best stuff on there, now it's something that people are actually like, oh, okay, this guy's legit. Like, yeah, I read his emails, but like, oh, damn. You know what I mean? So that really helped in the sense of not marketing to get jobs, more marketing to prove that we are what we say we are.
And for me, from the outside, watching how you've done it, and I actually caught up with you late, so I didn't see how you started it, but you built a brand. You built a brand on social. So now when people come and do their research, They're like you said, this guy's legit.
Yeah.
There's your giant portfolio. You can't hide behind anything.
You can't.
It's your voice, it's your face, it's your jobs,
everything.
it's your team, it's your prep, it's all of it.
It's everything.
For everyone to see.
Yeah.
And then they can make the decision if they want to work with you or not.
They can make decision. And it puts a lot of trust in you after, because it's crazy how social media works. When I was busy, I almost didn't want, if I was spread around doing a few different jobs for a few different people, social media almost bit me in the butt, because it's like, hey man, I seen you over here. Like, why aren't you over here? And then this guy's like, well, hey, you're over there. Like, I need you over here. And I'm like, that's not actually how it's working. Sometimes it is.
Yep.
But it's like a double-edged sword.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
to have walk me through the thought process and the putting yourself out there on social like that, building your brand on social, and what that felt like. And the reason I'm asking you this is just because of your like musical background and being a front man.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of like, I want to hear what you thought about that.
Well, when the band kind of stopped, I was just getting into that real comfortable frontman gig. I was a closet singer. I was a very shy kid. I'm pretty introverted. I'm not really good in crowds.
Dude, that is interesting.
So I'm not.
Me neither.
And I'm not good in crowds. And it was hard as a frontman because, you finish your set, you start tearing down. It's usually the front guy that goes around, mingles. That's great. Oh, this and that, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of times I just beeline it to my table, to my people, and just sit. And if people will come up and, oh yeah, great. Thank you. You know what I mean? Thank you.
Good.
Right. But at the same time, I'm not I wouldn't say I'm a very cocky person. I wasn't the guy out there like, I just slayed it, blah, blah, blah. But I really enjoyed what it did for people. So when the social media came about, I never have ever thought as a marketing person. I was just like, wow, Instagram's cool. Like, man, anybody can be a photographer now. This is awesome. This is incredible. Yeah, I'll post some stuff. And then you start seeing the way it works. And you're like, oh, crazy. This is nuts. You know what I mean? And then I was like, okay, well, I'll shine a little bit then. Maybe I'll put myself out there. Because like I said, before we started, there were so many guys like, dude, don't do that. Don't show the tricks of the trade. Do not do that. Like, what are you doing? But something that's, even my own workers were telling me not to do it. Something inside me was like, no, there's something here. There's something here. So I did my first informative video where I actually had to talk, had to have some sort of dialogue, explain, teach. And it did well. So I was like, okay. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I know what's best. I hate to say this to all you boys, but like, we are sort of where we are because of me. That's the piece of cockiness that comes out of me. But I'm scared. I'm that guy that's like, well, if I wouldn't have done it this way, would we have been here? Would I be there? Would it be like this? So I just said, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go all out. And it just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed. And I was like, damn. And like you said, now I've created this marketing and brand awareness that I actually didn't even realize I was doing. I sort of did. I understand it. I understand how powerful it is. Instagram's like the smartest marketing tool ever invented, I think. I could be wrong. I'm a painter, but I think it's super powerful. Yeah. And if you really understand the logistics of it, it's incredible. It's very incredible. It's very powerful.
And to be the front man on social.
Yeah.
Once you saw some responses, it probably gave you some juice to keep going with it.
It gave me some juice. It did. And it wasn't even the clout from watching myself on video. No, it was more just like, whoa, all these people are commenting, and then it's the private messages, and then blowing up, and then being like, oh my, well, and not blowing up because I'm not that big on there. I think the account's about 21,000 followers now.
It's real.
Which is
it's nothing. Is not, dude.
You know what I'm saying? I just say, because I know a lot of people are like, it's like there's accounts out there like with this or that, but if you know the logistics of it, I always compared it to the band, because us as a band said, if we could have just 1,000 super fans, that's all we'd need. That's all you'd need. People that would put time, money, and effort into you. You need what? 1,000 people. And you could do decent as a band. So same way with the Instagram. It's like, keep it real, no bullshit, show a little bit of your faults. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, because like, no, I'm not going to show too many mistakes, because this is a portfolio where people are coming to see the work. So it's like, So it's a very thin line between, and this is what I tell people on my podcast, there's a thin line between business and personal.
Yep.
You shouldn't really mix them too much, in my opinion, when it comes to social media. If you want to do more personal stuff, pictures of your food, leaving the gym, whatever, have a personal page.
Yep.
But to mix them together, there's a very thin line. But then so many people wanted to see more of that. Like, I get so much feedback just from posting a little story of my son playing piano in my living room.
Well, so then when you start dipping your toe in that, it starts humanizing the brand, which it already is human because it's you. Now it's just another level of humanizing.
Yeah. And one friend of mine, he's into marketing and sales, and he explained a lot of it to me because I'm not a big salesman.
No.
Nah, I find it's hard. When I go into a store, I want to be helped, but I don't want you down my throat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's me. But so I found it the same way. It's like right away, I think I could have took my social media to like that typical place that I think everyone wants to be now.
Yeah.
I want the ambassadorships. I want the sponsorships. I want the money. I want the clout. I want the guru. I want all of that. But they don't see like everything that's really involved with that.
Yeah.
And I am still at a crossroads even to this day. We were just chatting about it, right? Like, I don't know where to go from here.
So what's interesting is you just like slid it in there. You're like, on my podcast. So
sorry, I wasn't trying to.
No. Just for context though, like when you play this all out, and this is zero disrespect, we're in Calgary.
Yeah.
Small market. You're a high-end painter.
Yeah.
You crush it on Instagram. And then you're like, I need a podcast. So the reason I'm rattling those off is because this is me being a little selfish. There's a bunch of businesses in Calgary that are like questioning, what do I need social? Why would I have a podcast? Who wants to hear what I have to say? Here you are building it out the right way. So dig into why the hell a painter
like
in Calgary has started a podcast.
Well, I started the podcast because, for one, I was answering so many of the same questions. Apparently people can't read captions very well. There's so much stuff that was in the captions, and and I didn't want to be that guy that's like, read the caption. I'm very like, oh, hey man, like, or her or whatever, you know, because there's a ton of women in the trade too. Yep. So it's like everybody's reaching out, but they're all sort of asking me the same question. So I'm like, man, like I'm already so busy. Like, so how do I go about this? I'm like, you know what? I'll start a podcast.
Dude, is there anybody else? Well, I know the answer is no in Calgary. Is there anybody in North America? How many people in North America have a painting podcast?
I think a few now.
Okay.
A few now. But in Canada, I would say very minimal.
So let's say less than 7.
Oh, I think even less than 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your head goes there.
Yeah.
I'm going to spin up a podcast.
Yeah. And then once again, the crossroads. Okay. Do I do this just to be genuinely good person? Because my whole take on the social media and teaching people what I was doing wasn't, because it's the whole sellout thing.
Yep. Totally.
You know? As soon as it's like, oh, now you want to charge me. And it's like, well, hold on. I didn't want that. Okay. But I think I kind of shot myself in the foot with that, because I'm helping so many people, which I love to do. But my whole point was so they can go and make more money.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, it's not about that. You have to do a good job. Yes, but you're doing a good job. So hopefully you can make more money, get more contracts, make more money.
Yep.
Make more money. Right?
Basics.
So it's, exactly. Basics. So I'm like, okay, well, sure. I want to do that for people. And I don't want them to feel like that I'm just selling them. So I did the podcast, spent the thousands on the gear.
Dude, when you launched your first show, I was like, what the fuck?
What is this guy doing?
It came out before my podcast, I think. And I was like, he beat me to the punch.
So there was another guy online who was going to start a podcast. And I'm that guy that like, I'm sort of like that. I'm like, okay, I'm foreseeing the future with this already. Yep. So I'm like, I should try and be there first.
Yep.
But I'm also the guy that doesn't want to rush it. It needs to come out right. So
to invest.
I'm seeing all these other guys do it. I'm like, oh, frick, man. But I knew that if I did it properly, it would hit home better. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start the podcast. I'm not going to charge anybody for it. This is just, I'm just going to do it. So I don't have to answer all those questions, which I still do on a daily basis. But now it's more like, hey man, what do you think about this? Blah, 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 blah. And I'll talk to them a little bit about it. And then I'll be like, check out this episode. So they can go boom and they can.
It's fucking brilliant.
So here you go. Right. So the next phase will eventually be, I don't know. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, totally.
Right. But so I did the podcast mostly to save myself time, which I don't know if I did.
Well, probably not, but you've also strengthened your brand.
I think so.
Which if your brand is the overarching thing that's so strong, it makes you money. And and in multiple avenues, right?
Yeah.
More jobs.
Yeah.
Whatever deals come across the table.
Absolutely. And I hope, like, my dream for it all would be able to just tour around North America or Europe. Like, I got a lot of following in Europe and Australia and Great Britain. And I'd love to just be able to go around and just teach and do seminars.
It's possible though, right?
It's very possible. Oh man, let's not even get on that.
I know, but to, if you had a vision for the paint company, you knew kind of where you wanted to go and how you wanted to play. Here you are.
Yeah, man.
Doing it.
And I'm at a crossroads right now because I don't know. My heart is telling me to do that. It's saying, yeah, you should do that. Look what it's already done. You can do it. People will want it. People need it. It will help them. But now I've also put my company to a place that I've worked so hard to get. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I can't just quit.
Yeah.
And these jobs now are giving me great content. So now I'm like, so yeah.
It's a good spot to be.
It's a good spot to be, but I'm just getting overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's just what avenue to go. And now social media is taking a turn that, in my personal opinion, I don't think is a good direction. I think it's that iceberg thing again.
Yeah.
That so many people are seeing like, oh man, I can do this now.
Yep.
And I say this on my podcast all the time. We all can't be there. Not really.
Yep. It's not a lot of room up there.
Well, there is a lot of room, but it's like what I'm having trouble with right now is like what draws the line between good and bad.
Yep.
I was just talking about this with my wife the other day, actually about girls and women, because I have a daughter. Because there's so much information out there now that everyone has an opinion about something. But I was just saying to her, like, what's happening with humans is that we're all becoming too much the same. So it's like my daughter, she's 13, whatever. I see her with her friends. They're all look the same. They've all dressed exactly the same. But what I said to my wife, I was like, what's crazy now though, is now more than ever, it matters what's up here and what's in here. Because now, sorry, sweethearts, you all look the same. So what's going to distinguish you from the next, from the next?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to find the love of your life? It's all going to come down to inside of you.
Yep.
So I think that's the problem with social media, that people are just seeing things and they just want to be there and they don't want to get left out.
So I'm going to twist your mind here for a second.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
I think you've answered your crossroads.
Mm.
I think if you decide to slow it down and not do you, then you're vanilla like everybody else. If you go all in on you,
I know, and
it's like blinders on. I don't care what's out there. This is me. This is my heart. This is what's in my mind.
Yeah, it's tough though, bro. Because you know what's brutal about it right now is that I've worked so hard to get to a point where we're doing an amazing job on amazing projects. I get easily offended when someone is using social media in a way to expedite the narrative you're seeing.
Yeah. It's like fake.
And you're like, yo, like, why should you stand on the same podium as me?
Yep.
You didn't suffer the same as I did.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit, I'm at that crossroads there, because every day I'm like ready to just be like, fuck it all. Fuck you all. I don't really, do I need to compete in here? Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, like, well, if I want to touch people and help people, then I need to be like really in there.
Well, and it keeps you moving forward, right?
It keeps me moving forward. So like, once again, I'm at a crossroads, and you're right. I know what the answer is, but I'm just trying really hard to figure out how to do it without pissing people off, sounding arrogant, and selling out.
Well, yeah. And you have a bunch of other things too, right? Family to keep together and like, yeah.
But I know that there's income there to be made.
Yep.
So I'm like,
interesting. Do you, and before we got on camera too, or maybe right at the start, you were just talking about like not being a marketing person.
mm-mm.
Is it?
Never have been.
But when you look back on this, can you see what you've pulled off here?
I definitely see it. Once again, piece of me is like, dude, you should have just been ruthless from the beginning. You should have started charging from the beginning. You should have created it all from the beginning.
But
it's
you've probably
all
seen those
about
people.
genuine following. That's what it's about, man.
And I think that the chasing is like a quick win. To cut somebody to get a job is a quick win.
Yes, it's a quick win. And I think that's happening a lot on social media. And I can't hate on anybody. I've said this on my podcast. If you're doing something to make a buck to feed your family, great.
Go.
But I'm more on the integrity side of it. What are you doing to make that buck?
Yep.
Well, like, how much wool are you going to pull over people's eyes?
Mm.
Like, and I'm not into that.
Mm.
But another painter said to me, why aren't you there? Why are you not there when you should be one of the ones that are there?
Yep.
And I was like, this guy's totally right. I'll be doing an injustice to people wanting to learn the right way if I don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And who's to say if my way is the right way? There is so many different ways to skin a cat. That's what they say in the painting world too. It's like there's so many different ways to do it, but there is still a proper way based on good principles and stuff like that. Yep. So I don't know, man.
I think you're going to figure it out. I think it's because you have done it. I think once you figure out your scale issue of how to make it all happen, I think it'll be very clear.
Yeah, I think so. We'll see. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many avenues. Social media is a great thing, but I actually don't think humans are really far along using it now to know really what it's going to do. Like, there's no data on this to see what it's going to do in the next 10, 15 years.
But the interesting thing is, for characters like you and I, it's helped you build a business.
It has.
It's helped me build my business.
Yes.
And when you do it the right way, and you can not listen to everything and not look what's happening outside your lane, you keep doing your thing and do it for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. Social is a good thing.
It's a great thing, but I think that the highway and those lanes are just getting so much more broader.
For sure.
They're letting so much more stuff in. Like, here's a great example. On top of it all, I tried to start a furniture refinishing line. I had my shop. It was sitting empty. There it is, sitting empty. I'm paying rent. I'm like, oh my God, like, I need, some, you know what? I lay down some fire finishes. There's a huge market for it. I'm like, I could easily do this.
Between the hours of 11 p.m. and 2 a.m.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit slow at the time. So yeah. So once again, I'm like, okay, I just need to do I'll do 10 pieces. I'll reveal 10 pieces. I'll sell 10 pieces. I'll keep it exclusive. Nobody wanted it.
Why?
No. Well, I think it comes right back down to the social media. Everybody and their dogs do furniture now. Mm. And online is like such a huge part of people's everyday life now.
Yep.
That they don't see the value in paying, maybe $800 to $1,000 on a paint job on a piece of furniture.
Yep.
So that was probably my fault in the sense of like not doing the market analysis, seeing is this a demographic for it? I definitely think there still is a demographic for it, but it's for what I'm doing, it's very, very specific. Mm-hmm. And for me to blame people would be, a little childish.
Yeah.
But at the same time, those are the things that really screw up the markets sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you work with high-end clients, they're just going to buy it new.
Yeah.
They can afford it.
Yeah.
So why, unless you want something really ornate, something you want to keep in the family.
Custom.
Okay, great. Custom. Yeah. But I couldn't sell any of them and no one wanted, and I did it. I did everything. Facebook. I went designers. I that was the sales part of me that I hated. I was like, oh, now I got to
Greasy.
try and sell all this stuff and be greasy. And like,
Mhm.
hey, buy this furniture. You know what I mean?
Which, well, yeah. But it's an interesting test, though, right?
It was a very interesting test, actually. It showed me that that's not my area.
Or didn't give it enough time, or
You
didn't
know,
partner
you're
with
totally
the right
right.
person.
You need any furniture?
or-
My
or-
basement's full of fucking
I bet you I get a
furniture.
good deal now, too.
Oh,
hey?
fucking right.
How much is the storage worth in your basement?
Free.
How much per square foot?
Oh, I actually started giving some of it away because my wife's going to kill me.
Dude, the other crazy thing is you could do a charity event, and like you could get very creative with what you've done.
Yeah.
But it's another arm of how many things you got going on.
Well,
so,
it's my one buddy, Donnie, that said to me, he's like, dude, you're not gonna be able to do this all yourself. You have to resource. You have to outsource to other people. You need to start a little network. But I'm that guy that's like, I can fucking take over the world. Oh man, I got this. I'll take care of this. You know what I mean? And you're right. I probably didn't go hard enough with it. But it was something that spur of the moment. Like, can you do this?
dude,
fuck Danny, you can do this.
But it makes sense though. So
it makes a ton of sense.
There's something right there.
If I was in a bigger demographic, like a bigger population, I think that furniture they would sell like hotcakes. But there's not very many people here.
Small market.
And I'm looking at like people in the States, and there was one page specifically where they paint this furniture, they crate it up and they ship it. And I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's going from like Austin to like, you know what I mean? Like another place in Texas.
Yeah,
So
Dallas.
It's like, it's not going for like, I just posted one the other day and I was like, any takers? Like literally, anybody want this?
Bueller.
And literally a guy was like, do you deliver? And he's in the States. And I'm like, I'll FedEx it to you. But I actually wouldn't because it's probably not worth it. But yeah. So it's like, but I think that social media is screwing that up a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yep.
I think that nowadays we're giving the tools to people, which is why the guys in the beginning are saying, don't teach this stuff to people. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
It's interesting though, right? It's interesting that when you've come up with the idea and everyone's saying, don't do it. You're like, no, this feels right.
Yep.
And now, you've got to this point and now you try another idea and you're thinking like, these other people, like it's an interesting circle.
It's a very interesting circle.
You could think again, you could be like, no, I'm going to do it my way.
Which I did.
Yep.
And I think like guys like you and my other marketing guys are like, dude, like, what? You didn't put it on like this. You didn't like do any advertising. You're like, oh, well, of course. But then there's me being like, well, it was me I think it's me against myself.
For sure.
And I'm just like, can you do this? Like,
it's a test.
It's a test.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always testing myself.
Which you have to though. If you're doing your own thing, who else is going to do it?
Man. It's just like part of me. There's no way, because I do not want to be sitting there years later. It was like the podcast. Like, do I do this now? No, I'll just wait. Until what? Until everybody and their mom's doing it?
Until they have time.
Until they have time. Mm-hmm. And I think being first is a good thing.
Yep.
But just do it right. Yeah. Right. So, and I was doing the furniture right. Other than the sales part, the furniture was immaculate.
I'm sure it was
too immaculate.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
There's like gloves to sit on it.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah. And it's like, really? You're like, look at this thing. It's amazing. You're not going to find this anywhere else.
Buy it.
And they're just like buy it. And but once again, it's like a ritzier clientele. And it's like, well, why would I pay $2,000 for a vintage piece of furniture that's been painted when I can get like a really nice piece of furniture?
Yeah.
So yeah. And you know what? I'm not upset with it. I think my wife's more upset with it because we have all this furniture in our house now.
Guess you gotta swap some things in.
Well, it's starting to show up in places in the house. I'm like, there you go. There you go. So like, perfect.
So good, man.
Yeah.
This has been a really cool chat.
Yeah, man.
I end the show with one question. When I say Calgary, where's your head go?
I think my head always just goes Stampede. I think it's Calgary, man. It's
born and raised Calgarian.
Born and raised Stampede. Calgarian.
Yep.
And well, I think that's the Stampede is like, did you watch Yellowstone?
No.
They dropped the Calgary Stampede in Yellowstone. No, and one part in the show, the guy asked the other guy, so what's the craziest rodeo you ever been to? Calgary, Alberta, Stampede. Greatest outdoor show on earth. But I mean, just, I think of that. I actually really do think community. I think that And the more the population grows, and it's like, oh, you were born and raised here? And it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah,
Not too many of them.
We're anomalies.
Yeah, it's like, oh, wow. And that makes me feel really good.
Mm.
And I'm like, yeah, definitely. Or my kids, when we go to like a Flames game or we go wherever, we go to the mall, and it's like, oh, hey, what's that? And then my kid finally like, you know everybody. I was like, no, I've just lived here my whole life. So, and if they've lived here their whole life, more than likely you're going to know them.
Yep.
You know, and that's a great thing.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a great thing, man.
Well, yeah. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
I'm like,
thank you.
I'm pumped to watch whatever you pull out of your hat next online, because it's going to be something.
Not sure yet, man. We'll make something happen, I think.
But it's cool. I've obviously got to watch you on social. I've got to see your work on job sites, which is really cool. So
yeah.
It's our worlds collided at a perfect time. So.
Very cool. Yeah. And I appreciate it, man. I appreciate all the kind stuff that you say, because, you know, it feels good.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate that.
Yep. You need it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.